In this video I'm going to show you the best build for every Nightfarer in Elden Ring Nightreign. By build I mean the most effective relic setup you can use, passive effects and weapons you must prioritize depending on your character. The purpose of this video is providing you a guide to maximize the potential of all the Nightfarers when it comes to dealing high damage. I'm not gonna show you balanced builds or conventional builds for most casual players. I'm going to show you builds that can unleash the true potential of each one of all the 8 Nightfarers we can choose. Before we get started, it's important to mention two things. We are gonna be using some guaranteed relics and some random relics. This means there will be RNG involved, so you might have the effects I'm gonna show you in different order, different colors, or you might not even have them yet. This doesn't mean you can't use this information. Actually, it makes you aware of which effects you should be looking for. And the second thing I want to mention is about the well-known Ever Jail relic effect that increases your attack power by 5% per each Ever Jail you complete. Recently you might have seen or listened that you should always use this relic effect on your characters because it's the best effect available. And while it is partially true in the broadest aspect of the game, I think there are better options for each Nightfarer depending on how we are gonna play all of them. Everyone gets so excited about this relic because it can give you around 40% damage if you complete all the Ever Jails in your run. But this scenario relies heavily on RNG because you have to find enough Ever Jail keys and it's gonna make all your runs completely repetitive. And by prioritizing Ever Jails, you will be giving up important locations where you can find high rarity loot with extremely good passive effects, which in my opinion are underrated damage sources in this game, and you will see why later in the video. I am not saying this relic is bad because we are actually gonna use it with some characters, but in multiple builds of today's video we will not even need it. With that being said, let's jump straight into the builds. Let's begin with Executor. For this character the best relic setup in my opinion will be the next one. In the first slot I have the change compatible armament skill to seppuku at the start of expedition. This is going to be the most important effect for this first relic, but we also have Arcane plus 3, which is going to help this build a lot to proc bleed faster. And in the third effect for this first relic we have Mind on plus 2, but this third effect can be any other one. The most important effect for this relic is having seppuku available as the Ash of War for starting weapon. As I told you in a previous video, the passive ability of this character increases your attack power each time you recover from a status effect. The reason of using seppuku is being able to use this ability consistently, and the coolest part that I didn't know when I recorded that video is that you can use seppuku multiple times to stack the effect up to 4 times. However, I only recommend you to use it 3 times, otherwise the first stack of the buff will disappear in just a few seconds. In the second slot, the most important effects are the improved katana attack power and attack power up when facing frostbite afflicted enemy. This relic is actually insane because it has great synergy with our build and with the third relic, which is the Dark Knight of the Miasma. The third relic has frostbite in vicinity concealed self, which means each time we proc frostbite on an enemy we are gonna be invisible for a few seconds. Being in this stealth mode has really good advantages. In my opinion the best one is that the stamina is not consumed when you are hidden thanks to this effect, and of course if you are facing multiple enemies you are gonna be out of their sight. And this relic also grants the starting armament inflicts frost, so we are gonna be having 2 status effects in our katana. I know we can have 3 status effects on the same weapon, but the problem of that build is that we are gonna be imbuing the weapon with poison, so the only way to get the frostbite will be using the chilling mist Ash of War. So basically with that build, which is not a bad build by the way, we are wasting a little bit of the potential of this character. And in the third effect of the third relic we have improved physical damage negation. Now I'm pretty sure you see why this combination is pretty strong, and that's because in the second relic we have improved katana attack power, which is the main weapon we are gonna be using. We have the attack power up when facing frostbite afflicted enemy, which is a status effect we are gonna be proccing constantly thanks to the effects of the third relic that is gonna provide that extra synergy with the frostbite in vicinity concealed self. And just to make it even better, we can use seppuku up to 3 or 2 times before facing a boss fight to start the fight with a bunch of more damage, and in addition even more bleed build up. But of course we can also use the triple status effect build, which as I said is not bad, it's simply not as good as the previous one. However, the main advantage of using this one is that you don't have to rely on RNG. We have the Knight of the Wise that can be obtained after defeating Noster, the Knight of the Miasma that can be obtained after defeating the regular version of Caligo, and in the third slot we have the guaranteed relic we can buy in the collector signboard that has the attack power increase for each Ever Jail prisoner defeated. This relic was the main reason this effect became the meta or the general broken effect that everyone is talking about right now. So it is a great build, but the previous one is a lot better. Now when it comes to the best weapons we can use with this character, I will always go with Executor's Blade because this weapon is what is gonna make our builds work and it's gonna be dealing a massive amount of damage. However, if you are interested in trying other weapons, obviously the Reverse of Blood is one of the best weapons you can try with Executor thanks to the high dexterity and arcane of this character. The Hand of Valenia is gonna deal the max amount of damage possible with this character, and the Dragon Scale Blade is really good as well. But the problem I have with this katana is that it doesn't have bleed, so by working with your relics you can have lightning, frostbite, and bleed in your same weapon without having to rely on RNG. And of course the move build is gonna be pretty good as well with this character, but I think it's a little bit better with Duchess. Another great weapon to use with this character is the Eleonora's Pole Blade. I personally enjoy this weapon a lot because it deals a lot of stance damage, has a very good bleed build up, and is really fun to play. And when it comes to passive effects, dormant powers, and talisman, you always gonna be looking for successive attacks buffs such as the Millicent's Prosthesis, the Thorny Crack Tear. Successive attacks negates damage, but I think the most important will be bleed buffs. Bleed after using a crit hit, the Lord of Blood's Exultation in Talisman, the Lord of Blood's Exultation in the Dormant Power, any type of buff that can increase your damage after proccing bleed. Another useful effects you can use with this character is attack power up when two-handing the weapon, or attack power up when wielding two armaments, which is only for the power stance moveset of power stance jumps, but it can be really helpful as well. Now let's talk about Recluse. With this one, the relic setup is a lot simpler to understand. Personally, I see this character as a 100% spellcaster designed entirely to go with magic damage. Don't get me wrong, it is also good with fire damage or lightning damage because it has a scaling on both intelligence and faith, but personally my experience with Recluse, I think that the real strength of this character is the magic damage. Therefore, in the first relic I have the exclusive effect for Recluse, that is collecting affinity residues activates Terra Magica. This one is great because it automatically casts Terra Magica once you start using the skill. If you don't know what Terra Magica does, it increases your magic damage. In this relic I also have magic attack power up +1, which increases our magic damage by 5.5%. It will be a lot better if you have the +2 version, which is 6.5%. But as you know, the RNG sometimes is not the best and you have to use what you have to use. In the third slot we have the improved Crystallian Sorcery, which is in my opinion the most broken school of sorceries for this character. Feel free to experiment with any other school, but I really like the Crystallian Sorcery. In the second relic we also have the improved Crystallian Sorcery to stack its power with the first one. That is the concept I need you to understand with this character. If you don't like to use the Crystallian Sorcery, you can use any other school of sorcery, but try to stack 2 or more of them. In this one, as the first effect, we have the Suffer Blood Loss and increased attack power upon art activation. I think this one is good, but sometimes with a character that is not that strong, it might be less beneficial than it looks. The damage we can deal with this character is already pretty good, and sacrificing half of our HP in the middle of a combat just to deal additional damage, I don't think it's completely worth it. Let's say we use the ability to increase our attack power and avoid a difficult attack. If we don't find the proper moment to heal again, we are gonna be completely destroyed there. The third effect we have here is Vigor +3, but the effect you wanna be looking for here is the magic attack power up on whatever the version it has, or any other effect you find useful. And in the third slot we are using this guaranteed relic we can buy in the collector signboard. The first effect increases our max FP once we equip +3 staffs. Basically we have to equip 3 staffs and we're gonna have a lot of more FP. And this one also increases our max FP each time we open a Sorcerer's Rise, which is something you are gonna be doing with high frequency with a character like Recluse. And we also have the magic attack power up on the regular version, which increases our magic damage by 4.5%. If you don't want to use this third relic and you don't have the Recluse collecting affinity residues activates Terra Magica, then it's a lot better if you use the Vestige of Night, because after all with this character you can slowly recover your FP by using your skill, so that's gonna be your choice depending on which effects you have available or not. And when it comes to weapon, if you are gonna be following my build, we are gonna be looking for the Crystal Staff that is gonna have Shattering Crystal, which is the sorcery we want to be spamming and spamming to destroy the enemies like they were nothing. But if you find the Azur's Glintstone Staff with Comet Azur, the Lustra's Glintstone Staff with Stars of Rin, or whatever of the high tier staffs are gonna be great for this character. Which I recommend you to have with characters like this one is a weapon capable of dealing some decent stance damage like a greatsword, a hammer, or whatever weapon capable of dealing some decent stance damage, especially for the early game. Because in the early game you might want to clear an Everjail to get to level 5 quickly, to get to level 7 quickly if you're lucky. But let's say that you open an Everjail and you have the Crystallians and you only have sorceries. So there is where a hammer or a weapon capable of dealing strike damage or high stance damage is gonna help you a lot. But yeah, that is only a recommendation to make your gameplay less complicated when facing the enemies that are resistant to magic damage. Technically with this character you can also use any seal you have available, so if you get a seal drop that has an incantation you want to play, just go ahead and use it. It doesn't matter, it's gonna be good as well. Not as good as it will be if we were crafting our character especially to use this type of incantations, but it's gonna be good as well. And for the passive effects, talisman and dormant powers, we are gonna be looking for the Gravel School Talisman, the Godfrey Icon. We can be looking for the Magic Scorpion Charm, just be aware that that one will increase the damage you take, but the most important effects will come from the weapons you can loot from the game. There we are gonna be looking for improved magic attack power or improved sorceries, or also improved charged sorceries. Improved sorceries, charged sorceries, magic attack power, those are the passive effects you want to stack as much as possible, cause they will help you to increase your damage significantly, and even if you don't find a lot of them, you will be dealing a lot of damage just with your relic setup. But that's what I mean, imagine how much your damage can grow if you also stack those effects. And for the dormant powers, increase affinity attack power is gonna be the best, cause you're gonna be dealing magic damage. You can also go with affinity or physical damage negation to make your character a little stronger. You can also go with improved stance breaking, because getting a stance break is gonna be really hard with a character that only deals sorceries, but it's possible. And if you find periodical glint blades, it's gonna be even better. I'll actually prioritize periodical glint blades over improved stance breaking if you have them in the same options, and that way you're gonna be very successful with this character. For the Guardian, we're gonna be using this very unique build I like a lot, because as I told you in a previous video, the only reason I don't play this character is because I don't like to play with the shield. I don't like to use guard counters. I don't like to charge guard counters, and I'm pretty bad when using the passive skill of this character, which by the way is an active skill, not a passive skill. But anyways, in the first slot we have the Guardian creates a tornado when charging halberd attacks. Combined with the taken attacks improves attack power and +2 on dexterity. Dexterity +2 is not important, you can have any other effect. What matters here is the taken attacks improves attack power and the whirlwind when charging halberd attacks. If you pay attention here, after performing a charge R2, we are gonna be releasing a tornado, and this tornado is gonna deal a little bit of extra damage and stance damage, which can be really effective in multiple situations, especially when fighting strong enemies. And as you know, the taking attacks improves attack power, increase your attack power each time you take a hit, which is gonna be perfect with this character, because instead of rolling, we are gonna be using Endure to tank the enemy attack to immediately respond with a charge R2. Now let's take a look at our second relic, where we have the partial HP restoration upon post-damage attacks. I'm pretty sure you know why this is great, because we're gonna be taking reduced damage from hits thanks to the Endure Ash of War, and we're gonna recover that HP we lost by immediately attacking with a charge R2 attack and healing with this fantastic relic effect. If that wasn't enough, we also have the Ever Jail effect here, so we're gonna be increasing our damage with each Ever Jail we complete. And I also have in this one the improved madness resistance, which is just an additional effect I had there. If you have one with a better effect, then go ahead and use it. And in the third relic we have one of my favorite effects for this character, which is the increased duration for character skill and the change compatible armament skill to Endure at the start of expedition. We also have a strength +3, but if you have something else, feel free to use it. Now I really like the increased duration of the character skill, because this way the tornado of the ability is gonna last longer, and if I'm not wrong, if we charge it, it's gonna be even better. It's gonna have more range and we are gonna pull more enemies into the vortex. If we are facing enemies like this guy that are weak and don't have a lot of poise, we're gonna charge the skill and we're gonna use a charge heavy attack, so we destroy them instantly. If we are gonna be facing a stronger enemy than this guy, let's say a boss fight or an enemy that can deal a lot of damage in one hit, instead of rolling, once we're gonna get attacked, we're gonna use Endure, and instead of rolling or doing something else, we're gonna respond with a charge heavy attack, healing instantly. So we take the hit with Endure, we respond with a charge heavy attack, and we're gonna recover the HP we just lost. And remember that we have the taking attacks improves attack power, so by using this technique, we're gonna be dealing 15% more damage in our next attacks. So they are gonna be extremely strong. And this is an alternative version of the build that has a reduced RNG. However, we don't have guaranteed relics with the changed compatible armament skill to Endure at the start of expedition, so that's something you will have to look for. This alternative build is a lot easier to craft, but of course the damage is not gonna be as good as the original one. Now with this build, of course, there are big downsides, and maybe the most important or the most relevant is that we are gonna be playing mostly with our main weapon. The only way we could be playing with another halberd is if that other halberd has the Endure skill. But other halberds you can also look for is the golden halberd, especially if it has golden vow, because golden vow is a great buff to use with any character actually. So I think that is important to mention. If you find this weapon with the golden vow or any weapon with golden vow, make sure to pick it if it doesn't affect the build you already crafted. Another one that is gonna be really good is the Commander's Standard, because the ability of this one is gonna give you a similar effect to Golden Vow, significantly stronger but with a shorter duration. Talismans, passive effects, and dormant powers we need with this character. Talismans is gonna be the Axe Talisman that increases the damage of the charge attacks. We can also use any defensive talisman that can reduce the damage we take, or we can also use stamina boosters talismans like the Viridian Amber Medallion or the Green Turtle Talisman. The best passive effects for weapons we can find in the map: improve damage for charge attacks, improve improve attack power when two-handing the weapon, successive attacks negates damage, and taking damage boosts damage negation. That effect is gonna be really important so you can tank even more attacks. For dormant powers, increased enemy damage after crit hit will be good, increased physical damage, improve stamina recovery speed, improve stance breaking, periodical glint blaze will be good as well. With this character you can be more versatile with your dormant powers, but be always looking for two-handing enhancements or improved charge attack effects. That's gonna make a great difference in your damage. For Wylder, I think the most important effects you want to prioritize are the character exclusive effects, because as you know, this character is capable of being effective with almost any weapon, even with incantations or spells, but if you really enjoy the close quarter combat, this character is probably one of the best to do that. In the first load I'm using the Wylder's earring, because this one has two exclusive effects for this character. The +1 additional character skill use, which I believe is a must, not only because it allows you to use the skill twice, but even when you are not in combat, you can use this to travel a lot faster across the map. The second effect is Art Activation spreads fire in area, which is going to be incredibly useful because it spreads fire after using the ultimate. It has the stamina recovery upon landing attacks. That is gonna have an insane synergy with our second relic. As you know, this one has the stamina recovery upon landing attacks, which is going to stack up the regular version we have in the first relic, and the reason why this relic is so good is because we have two improved attack power effects. The taking attacks improves attack we previously used with Guardian, and the fire attack power up +2, which is gonna be fantastic with a character like Wylder with the follow-up attacks or with the ultimate. The fire attack power up +2 increases your fire attack power by 6.5%, so it's gonna be a really decent increase of damage. In the third slot we have a random relic, which has the follow-up attacks after using the character skill with improved critical hits, and starting armament deals holy damage. In this case, this effect is not that great unless you're gonna be facing specifically an enemy weak to holy damage, like the new version of Gladius or Healstor, or any enemy weak to holy damage. I think this is the best combo you can use with this character because it has all the good perks of this character available in one single setup, with the possibility of dealing lots of damage if you craft your build correctly. However, running a crit hit build with this character is not a bad option either. The problem of doing this is that you will be sacrificing a lot of the good reasons why playing this character is really good. First of all, we are gonna be losing the one additional character skill use and the spread fire on area after using the ultimate ability. But why I'm saying that using a crit hit build is great with this character? Because the ultimate is gonna break the stance of any enemy. It doesn't matter which enemy it is, the ultimate of this character is gonna break his stance. It doesn't matter if it's an Everdark boss or if it's a regular enemy, it's gonna break their stance, which means a guaranteed critical hit. So why not? So that way stacking critical hit effects is gonna be really useful. However, this might not be as good as it will be with other characters like Rider, which I will address later in the video, because the main type of weapon we are gonna be getting with Wylder are going to be greatswords, and the greatswords are not gonna be as good as colossal weapons. If we are lucky enough to find a colossal weapon, it's not gonna be as good as it's gonna be with Rider, because Rider has better strength scaling than this character. However, it's not gonna be bad, it's gonna be a great alternative as well. You just have to decide which one works better with your playstyle. And as you know, with Wylder any weapon can work well, but I will always recommend you to look for greatswords. It doesn't matter which greatsword we are gonna be running, just make sure to be using greatswords. As you know, if you find the Marae's Executioner sword, you already won the match, no matter with which character you are playing, but it will be cool to have it with this character too. One of my favorite greatswords to have with this character is Duchess's greatsword, because the skill of this weapon deals a lot of stance damage, and it gives you a lot of poise while you are charging the skill, so almost any attack is going to interrupt the animation. The Deathspoker is a good option as well. The 4 greatsword is a great option too, and if you find the Blasphemous Blade, might be the best weapon you can find with this character because it deals fire damage and it heals each time you use the skill, so it's an amazing weapon to use with Wylder. But as you know, this character is good with everything, so in the weapons aspect you can use whatever you want. It's gonna be really effective with this guy. And now when it comes to passive effects, talisman and dormant powers, it's more or less the same, but it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're going with fire damage, then you're gonna be looking for the Fire Scorpion Charm, Ritual Sword Talisman, any type of talisman that can increase your damage a little bit, because this guy has a passive ability that allows you to cheat death one time, so you can be a little bit more aggressive with this character without worrying about losing the fight early. Some good passive effects for this character are those that increases the fire attack power, the successive attacks negates damage, improve stance breaking when two-handed, improve stance breaking when wielding two armaments. That one is actually one of the best you can use with this one if you find another greatsword and you just go grass copying anything, you know, it's gonna be really good. Of course, if you find improved critical hit hit buffs, just take them unless you find something better, something more related to what you're trying to do. Improve stance breaking with two-handing, improve fire attack power, improve crit hits. Those are gonna be the ones that you're gonna be looking for. And in dormant powers, increase damage after dealing a crit hit, crit hits cause the weapon on bleed, increase stamina recovery speed, periodical glint blades, improve ultimate charge speed. That is a really good effect you can have with this character, and you can obtain it after defeating the day 2 boss. Increase affinity attack power. There are a bunch of effects you can use with this guy, and they are gonna work. So with Wylder is a little bit less complicated because he's good with everything, you know. But yeah, those are that is the way I like to play this guy. Once again, a recommendation I give you with this guy is always using the grapple even if you are not fighting, because it's gonna help you travel a lot faster and being able to use your time more effectively. When it comes to Duchess, everyone will tell you how effective she is with the dagger, and that's true. She's extremely strong with the dagger, but she's even better when casting fast spells, especially the Cutting Slicer, which I don't know why many people say they don't get this sorcery in the expeditions. If it's one of the most common sorceries you can find in the forts, I think you guys should check with higher frequency the forts if you are looking for the Cutting Slicer. Probably the best sorcery you can use with Duchess. For this relic setup in our first slot, we have the guaranteed relic we can obtain in the collector signboard. That increases our max FP with 3 stabs equipped per each sorcery rise we unlocked, and it has the magic attack power up on the regular version. As you know, if you think you can effectively manage your FP, then go with the Vestige of Night, which has the magic attack power up +2, which is gonna be useful with Duchess as well. Personally, I prefer having this one because sometimes I don't have enough runes to buy Starlight Shards, or I don't have a merchant close by. In the second slot, we have a random relic with exclusive effect for Duchess, improved character skill attack power. This one will increase the damage of our skill by 10%, so it's actually a great effect to have available. And we have the most important effect for this build, which is improved Carrion Sword sorcery. If you have another relic with this effect, you can replace the first one, but personally, I really like having enough FP, so I'm gonna stick with my first relic. However, we are gonna try to stack 2 or 3 of the improved Carrion Sword sorcery to maximize the damage of the Cutting Slicer. The third effect is defeating enemies restores HP for allies but not for self. This effect is not really important, you can use any other effect you find useful. In the third slot, we have the improved Carrion Sword sorcery and changes comparable armament skill to Chilling Mist at the start of expedition. That is a decent attribute to have in our starting weapon, but the main reason why I have this relic is because of the improved Carrion Sword sorcery. This way we are gonna be stacking a lot of damage with the Cutting Slicer, and if you are really struggling to find that sorcery, just look in the forts. In the regular forts where you can fight the Abductor, where you can fight that knight that is in the top of the tower, in those places I always find the Cutting Slicer. If you want, you can also check for Sorcerer's Rise, but I really always find the Cutting Slicer in the forts. As I told you at the start of the video, these are builds that are focused on dealing the highest amount of damage with each character, so they tend to be pretty specific. Now, as you can see here, I have a bunch of useless effects like HP restored when using medical boluses. Here, if you have the Evergale buff, it's gonna be great. If you have magic attack power up +2, it's gonna be great. But if you're really a person that do not like to rely on RNG, with this character you can also use the same setup you can use with Executor, which is the Knight of the Miasma, the Knight of the Wise, and the Evergale relic. No RNG involved, insane damage with this character. It's actually a great amount of damage, honestly. Not as good as Cutting Slicer, but to be a no RNG build is extremely good as well. When it comes to weapons for Duchess, any dagger is gonna be amazing, especially the Black Knife, the Blade of Calling, the Reduvia. Any dagger is gonna give you really good damage, but if you are gonna be using the no RNG setup, then go with your main weapon, it's gonna be the best. If you're gonna be looking for the Cutting Slicer, it's very likely that you're gonna get it in the Carrion Glintstone staff, but in general, any staff is gonna work great with Duchess because she can cast spells faster than Recluse, but with a very similar DPS that can be compensated with the skill of this character. So that's why many people say this character is the best when it comes to be a spellcaster, but I like to play this character more aggressively. I wouldn't like to play Duchess as Recluse, because Recluse plays at a safer distance, and Duchess feels like that type of character that can approach enemies at a closer range. The Moonveil, for instance, is an amazing option to use with this character too. If you find the Wind of Astel, is gonna be extremely effective with this character as well. So as you can see, this is a really versatile character as well, but more focused on magic damage. That doesn't mean it's not gonna be effective with holy damage, because as I previously told you, the Blade of Calling or the Black Knife are great weapons you can use with this character, especially against enemies weak to holy damage. Passive effects, talismans, and dormant powers for this character. For passive effects from weapons, go with my increased magic attack power, increased sorceries, in successive attacks negates damage, reduce FP consumption. Those effects are going to be useful for your build. When it comes to talismans, if you're not afraid of taking a lot of damage, you can go with the Magic Scorpion Charm, the Graven Skull Talisman. You can also use the Godfrey icon with this one. The Ritual Sword Talisman as well. The Ritual Sword Talisman is useful with almost any character, so if you can keep yourself at full HP, the Ritual Sword Talisman might be your best option for almost every character. A defensive talisman might be useful as well, like the Dragon Crest Shield, and for the dormant powers you're gonna be looking for increased affinity attack power, increased affinity damage negation, improved stamina recovery speed, periodical glint blades, reduced FP consumption as well as a dormant power is great too. So if you find the ones I mentioned, go for them. If you have no choice, then pick the best one you can use. Now let's talk about Ironeye. This character is pretty similar to Wylder because we can craft a build for this character depending on which boss we are gonna be facing, because it's gonna be really effective in almost every scenario. In this case, the build I'm showing you right now is mostly designed to fight enemies like Hillstor, the Everdark version of Gladius, Libra, or any other enemy that is vulnerable to holy damage. However, here we have a bunch of effects that you shouldn't ignore with this character, regardless of which affinity damage you want to use. In the first slot we have Ironeye extends duration of weak point. This is one of the most important effects for this character because it increases the duration of the mark of Ironeye, which increases the possibility of breaking it, dealing additional damage. In this relic we also have the attack power increase for each ever jail prisoner defeated, and in this case I think this effect is actually great because this character is pretty similar to the Wylder, but it might require a little bit of extra damage in general. And as thanks to the playstyle of this character we can complete the ever jails fast, we can aim to complete 2 or 3 ever jails per run, so we can get 15% more damage, without ignoring other important aspects like the castle, like shifting earth events. As I told you at the start of the video, this effect is not bad, but I don't want you to completely focus on this effect, ignoring other aspects of your run that are gonna be important. Third effect of this relic is improved damage negation at low HP. In the second slot we have the Edge of Order, which is a guaranteed relic we can obtain after completing the questline of this character, and it has the boost thrusting counterattacks after executing art. The counterattacks is a movement that is performed when you attack an enemy when the enemy is attacking you. During the attack animation of the enemy, if you land a piercing hit, it's gonna count as a counterattack, dealing 35% more damage. This is very difficult to do with other characters, but with Ironeye, thanks to the arrows, it's pretty easy. So once we use the ulti, we're gonna be dealing a lot of more damage with the counterattacks by about 30 seconds if I'm not wrong. We have the improved bow attack power, and as I previously told you, starting armament deals holy damage, because this build is designed to be dealing holy damage. But you can craft your build according to the affinity damage you want to deal. The only effects I think are a must with this character are the character exclusive effects: extends duration of weak point, boss thrusting counterattacks after executing art, and the +1 additional character skill use that is something we have in our third relic, where we also have the partial HP restoration upon post damage attacks, which now works with the Ironeye arrows, which is amazing. And for this build that is designed to increase the holy attack power, we have holy attack power of +2. But now here we have an example of how the build will look if we were looking for something different, in this case lightning damage. Lightning damage is an affinity damage that works great with characters like Executor or Ironeye when the lightning damage is coming from our weapons. If we are gonna be using lightning incantations, it's a lot better to go with Revenant or even Recluse, but when the lightning damage comes from weapons, Ironeye or Executor are the best, and I think Ironeye is slightly better because of the bow. So in this alternative build, as you can see, we have the +1 additional character skill use, lightning attack power of +2, we have the partial HP restoration upon post damage attacks, lightning attack power of +2, and in the third one we have extends duration of weak point, and starting armament deals lightning damage. This is basically a way to craft an Ironeye build around lightning damage. In the third relic I would like to have other effects like lightning attack power of +2 again, or the improved attack power of bows. In this case I only have the improved attack power with +3 great swords equipped, but I will always prioritize having good passive effects instead of just stacking 3 great swords that are not gonna be useful for me. So this build is just an alternative version that can show you how you can craft another build for this character depending on which enemy you want to face. For instance, the previous build I showed you was amazing for almost every enemy, but if you want to face Fulgor, it's not gonna be effective because Fulgor absorbs a lot of holy damage, but with this build you are gonna be dealing a lot of more damage against that guy. So that is the cool part of characters like Ironeye. They are extremely versatile and self-sufficient, that they might not require a very specific build to be successful. Now when it comes to weapons with Ironeye, I strongly recommend you to stick to your bow, but if you want to try other weapons, I recommend you to go with lightning weapons, high dexterity weapons like curved swords, like katanas, twin blades. Any weapon that scales with dexterity or arcane is gonna be a good weapon to use with this character. This character is like a ranged version of Executor, so that's why I recommend you to stick with the bow, but in case you wanna play melee with this character, because you can mark them and dodge at the same time while playing at melee range, you can also do that. So if you want to play melee, be sure to be looking for high dexterity and arcane weapons, like as I previously told you, katanas, twin blades, anything. If you find the Rivers of Blood with this character, it's gonna be insane as well. So yeah, basically if you want to look for melee weapons, try to perceive this character as an Executor. The way I like to use this character is crafting my build around my starting weapon. cause that way I will not depend on the drops I get to deal the max damage possible against the Night Lord I'm gonna face. But while you find the upgrade materials for your main weapon, you can pick any other bow you find during your expedition. Actually, I don't think there is a bad bow with this character, almost every bow is gonna be good with him, so basically it's up to you. Now when it comes to talismans, passive effects and dormant powers, for passive effects and talismans, look for improved ranged weapon attacks. Those buffs are gonna increase your damage dramatically. There is a talisman that increases your damage of the ranged weapon attacks, and there is a talisman that increases the effective range of your bow, which means you're gonna be dealing a lot of damage even if you are far away from your target. Another effective talisman you can be looking for with this character is the Spear Talisman. This talisman is really effective when you are using spears or when you are using any type of piercing weapon, because each time you perform a counter attack you are gonna be dealing like 20% more damage, and that stacked with the default 35% more damage of the counter attacks. Plus, if you have the relic that increases your counter attacks damage after using the art, it's gonna be a lot of additional damage. So if you find the Spear Talisman, it's gonna be really good with Ironeye. In passive effects from weapons, you are gonna be looking for the same effects: improve ranged weapon attacks, improve effective range of these ranged weapons. And if you are running a specific affinity build, you can be looking for that affinity damage boost: increase holy attack power, increase fire attack power, increase lightning attack power. As I'd say, this character is extremely versatile. And when it comes to dormant powers, there is also a trust in damage buff, so you can be looking for that one. You can look for affinity buffs depending on which affinity you are looking for. You can use increased physical damage, periodical glint blades, stamina recovery speed, improved stance breaking. Anything is gonna be pretty useful with this character. Bleed after dealing a crit hit is also really good with this character. Yeah, basically Ironeye is extremely versatile. And for Revenant, I'm gonna show you one of my favorite builds in the entire game, which is a build based on Frenzied Flame incantations. This one relies a lot on RNG because you have to find the Frenzied Flame seal, but once you find it, it's over, you win, basically. It's as simple as that. If you manage to find that seal with this build, you won, because you're gonna be dealing a ridiculous amount of damage against almost every enemy, with the exception of those enemies extremely resistant to fire damage. But any enemy vulnerable to fire damage or that is not absorbing fire damage, you're gonna be melting them. In the first slot, we have the Revenant trigger Ghost Flame Explosion during ultimate art activations with improved Frenzied Flame incantations. As you can see, I'm using a medium relic because it was the only relic that has both effects available. In other relics, I have the trigger Ghost Flame Explosion both without the improved Frenzied Flame incantations. Second relic as well, improved Frenzied Flame incantations with exclusive effect for Revenant, strengthens family and allies when ultimate art is activated. Extremely important as well to make our summons more useful. And in the third slot, an extremely good relic for this character, which is random as well, so if you have the effects in different order, remember that it's okay as long as you have them. Power up while fighting alongside family with the Ever Jail buff. I am only using this relic because at the end we have the change comparable skill to Horfrost Stomp at the start of expedition. If instead of the attack power increase for each Ever Jail prisoner defeated we had another stack of improved Frenzied Flame incantations, I will go for it. But as I didn't have any other one and this one has the Horfrost Stomp at the start of expedition, I'm going for this one, because this Ashovar is gonna make the start of the expeditions a lot easier. But there are other great alternatives like stacking other schools of incantations, like the Dragon Cult incantations, which are based in lightning damage, that in my opinion are the coolest looking incantations of the entire game, but are not as effective as the Frenzied Flame incantations. Weapons you can use with this character: if you have the Horfrost Stomp Ashovar at the start of expedition, go with your main weapon. It's gonna be your best friend until you find a useful incantation. Very similar to with Recluse, always carry with you a weapon capable of dealing strike damage or decent stance damage. If you happen to find an enemy that is resistant to the damage you are dealing, you can use a strike damage weapon or break the stance of that character. Crystallians, golems, all those types of enemies that tend to be resistant to the base damage we are dealing with the strike damage or with high stance damage, they are gonna be melted. The Cypher Path is one of the best weapons we can use with this character, but if you want to focus on using this type of weapons, Cypher Path, Coded Sword, I think you should craft your relic setup according to the holy damage, you know? You are gonna be looking for holy attack power +2, starting armament weapon deals holy damage, or any type of holy damage buff you can find if your target is finding this type of weapon, Cypher Path or the Coded Sword. The most interesting fact about this type of weapons is that they do not deal physical damage, they only deal holy damage. So they are pretty effective against those enemies weak to holy damage, and these weapons get a lot of damage from characters like Revenant. If you are lucky and you find the Sword of Night and Flame with this character, is gonna be really good as well, but the most important one will be the Frenzied Flame seal, and I recommend you to always use the Crater, and I recommend you with this character to always use the Crater, so you can upgrade the seal to the legendary level, dealing even more damage. What about talismans, passive effects and dormant powers for this character? For talismans, the Fire Scorpion Charm to deal additional damage with the Frenzy Flame incantations. The gold 3 icon will be the best because you can charge the Flame of Frenzy. So if you are really lucky and you find the gold 3 icon, don't let it go. It's the best talisman you can use with this build. If you find any defense talisman, it's gonna be great with the Revenant, because as you know, this type of characters have a really low amount of HP, and if you make a mistake, it's gonna be quite expensive. But if you don't get any of these talismans, do not worry, because you can compensate that with your weapon's passive effects, where you're gonna be looking for improved incantations, improved charge incantations, or improved fire attack power. And I really hope you find them, because sometimes each time I'm playing something like Wylder or Rider, I get those buffs, and each time I play Revenant, I don't find any of them at all. But eventually you'll do it. I'm just saying because the game is like that, it's random, so sometimes you're not gonna get what you want. But if you keep trying, eventually you'll get some cool buffs and you're gonna be dealing a lot of damage. For dormant powers, again, increase affinity damage, increase physical attack power. You're not gonna be dealing a lot of physical damage, but it's always good to be able to deal a little bit of extra damage with a physical damage weapon in case it is necessary. Periodical glint blades might be the best to deal some stance damage, break the stance of that enemy, and being able to use your incantations as much as possible. And in dormant powers, you can also find one that increases the damage of your incantations and sorceries, so you're gonna be looking for that one as well. Personally, this is my favorite character to play with incantations because I feel it was designed like that. When it comes to Recluse, I think that character is more designed to sorceries, but if you want to use Recluse with this build, go ahead and try it. I'd rather just go with Revenant, but that is up to you. After all, both characters have a scaling of fate, so technically they should be equally effective. But personally, for incantations, I prefer playing with Revenant. Last but not least, let's talk about the character I consider the most broken Nightfarer of the entire game, which is the good old Rider. This guy right here is capable of dealing a lot of damage in one single critical hit under the right setup, which is the one I'm gonna show you right now. The most important thing to consider here is that this build can be crafted pretty easily even if you don't have good RNG. But let's begin first with my original setup, and then we will take a look to the no RNG builds. First, I am using the Dark Knight of the Veyron, which has the improved critical hit +1 that grants a 20% damage increase, and the regular improved critical hits. Be mindful that you can't stack the improved critical hits +1, so we can't equip both Knight of the Veyron relics, but the regular version of the improved critical hits that increases your critical hits by 15% does stack with the Dark Knight of the Veyron and can be obtained in any random relic. This means that you can use the Dark Knight of the Veyron and other 2 relics with improved critical hits, so you can stack multiplicatively 20%, 15%, 15%, 15% more damage in your next critical hit. By doing the math, we are gonna be dealing 82.7% more damage in our next critical hit just by default with our relic setup. Remember that during the expedition we can find even more critical hit buffs. So, first relic, Dark Knight of the Veyron. In the second relic we have the partial HP restoration upon post damage attacks. This effect is completely optional. The most important effect here is the improved critical hits. If you don't have the partial HP restoration upon post damage attacks, you can use any other effect you find useful, especially if you are extremely lucky and you find improved stance breaking when wielding 2 armaments with the improved critical hits. Keep that relic because it's gonna be the best relic you can have if you are going for crit hits with Rider. But partial HP restoration upon post damage attacks is great as well because you can play extremely aggressive, being sure that you are gonna be able to heal as long as you keep attacking your target. In the third relic, we have the damage taking while using character skill improves attack power and stamina exclusive for Rider. That is going to increase our attack power by 10% and our stamina by 20% for about 30 seconds each time we take damage when using our skill. And of course we have the improved critical hits. This is as well one of my favorite relics I have. So with this build you are gonna be capable of dealing a lot of damage, and it is really easy to craft. So if you're a really unlucky player or you don't play the game a lot and you think you don't have good relics, this is a no RNG build that has almost the same impact of my previous build. We have the Dark Knight of the Veyron guaranteed relic. We have the Dark Knight of the Demon guaranteed relic that increases your attack power each time you take damage. That is gonna have insane synergy with the skill of this character. This effect increases your attack power by 15% for 10 seconds and it's gonna refresh each time you take an attack again. And in the third relic we have the improved critical hits from a guaranteed relic from the small Jar Bazaar that you can buy for a very few amount of Mork. So there is nothing that can prevent you from use this amazing Rider build, and I already show you in this video the potential of this build. When it comes to the weapons, we're gonna be looking for Rider. Any colossal weapon is gonna do the job. It doesn't matter which one you pick, any colossal weapon is gonna be great. I recommend you to be wise depending on which character you are gonna be facing. If you're gonna go against a holy damage character, you go with the Start of the Avatar, with the Envoy's Greathorn, with the Great Club. If you're going against Fulgor, then the Dragon Great Claw. But if you want plain physical damage, highest physical damage possible, you can go with the Axe of God 3 or upgrade the Duelist Great Axe to the legendary level. With Rider under the crit hit build, against every Night Lord, I recommend you to go with the Crater, with the exception of 2 bosses. If you're gonna be facing Adele, or Caligo, use the Mountain Top Shifting Earth event, because there you are gonna be gaining the anti-dragon effect, which is going to increase your damage against dragons by 20%. It's a very valuable resource when fighting dragons. A great weapon you can also look for critical hits is the Executioner's Great Axe, because it has a 15% damage increase for the critical hits. It's like having another stack of improved crit hits on your relic setup. Open the detailed description of each weapon and look for those weapons with highest strength. Those weapons are gonna be your best options to deal the highest critical hit damage possible in one single attack. Talismans, dormant powers, and passive effects improve critical hits. That's gonna be as simple as that, guys. As simple as that. Talismans, Ritual Sword Talisman, Dagger Talisman, Affinity Scorpion Charms. If you are going for fire damage, Fire Scorpion Charm, Holy damage, Sacred Scorpion Charm. It's gonna be like that. Both Dagger Talisman, basically. Maybe Viridian Amber Medallion for more stamina, the Green Turtle Talisman for fast stamina recovery. In passive effects, it's gonna be the same. Improve stance breaking when wielding two armaments, improve critical hits. If you find more critical hits, replace the improved stance breaking when wielding two armaments. Go with the critical hits, because as they stack multiplicatively as almost any buff, but as the crit hit is already a multiplier, your damage is gonna be really stupid. So that's why I'm saying that the Everjail relic is great, but there are other great relic setups that do not even need the Everjail buff, like this one. And for the dormant powers, increase enemy damage after crit hit, bleed after dealing critical hits, improve stance breaking, improve affinity attack power, improve physical attack power. Those buffs are gonna make a huge difference for this build. Let me know in the comment section what you think of these builds. Remember that these builds are designed mostly to deal the maximum amount of damage, but that doesn't mean I'm forcing you to use these builds. I'm just showing you so you can try them if you want to. With that being said, I hope you have an amazing day, guys. My name is Carlos, and I'll see you in the next one.